The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Kalshi. Make real money predicting sports. Kalshi is available in every state. Also get $20 for free when you sign up with the promo code SGPN. That's Kalshi, promo code SGPN. And welcome, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Currently early Sunday morning, around midnight Eastern Time. February 15th, and host always Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the breakdown of the three title matches taking place on Sunday. We have Buenos Aires, we have Dallas, and we have Rotterdam. So we're going to break down all three of those title matches in a second. Before we get into the actual preview of the title matches on Sunday, a reminder that you support the show by liking and subscribing on YouTube. Also find the podcast on Spotify or Apple. So if you do so, leave a rating and a review on that platform or those platforms as well. Plus, a reminder, if you want to check out all the podcasts in SGPN for free in one easy location, check out the SGPN app. Free to download in the App Store. Access to all of our picks and podcasts in one easy location. Plus, a reminder, check out the merch store. A lot of great Tennis Gambling Podcast merch. We have sweatshirts, we have t-shirts, we have mugs, different colors. Think you like the options that we have. Very affordable. So once again, check out the merchandise there. We also just added hats to the collection. So once again, check out the merch store for some Tennis Gambling Podcast merch. Last but not least, check out the free giveaway that this actual network is having for the Daytona 500, which of course is on Sunday. NASCAR Gambling Podcast crew is hooking it up by giving away $100 cash and $100 SGPN gift card. Enter for free at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Daytona to enter the free Daytona 500 giveaway. So starting off with the recap of what happened for the semis. Unfortunately, the lock and dog picks were not very good. For the lock, we ended up losing with De Minaur team total over 12.5 at -140. Bit of a heartbreaker there. Humbert, according to the tennis channel, after every single match, they give you a certain grade to basically evaluate the performance of the individual. And Humbert drastically outplayed De Minaur, according to that performance rating, and yet he still lost in straight sets. De Minaur was able to win 6-4, 6-3, despite allowing 10 breakpoint opportunities because Humbert converted none of them. 0 for 10 on breakpoint chances. De Minaur ended up having to have a really difficult hold there in the 4-3 game of the second set. So Humbert blew a couple of breakpoint chances in that game. If he would have converted, it would have been 4-4. We would have needed one more Humbert hold to actually win this play, basically. Unfortunately, fell short because Humbert could not convert a breakpoint, but either way, picked up a loss for the lock. For the dog, it was unfortunate because we did think Felix was going to win. However, we did take the over 21.5 in a parlay at +112, and Bublik got absolutely buried as he won 3 games in the entire match. Unfortunately, I'd say underestimated how fatigued Bublik would be after the 3-set marathon against Munar. My bad on that one. But either way, a point is we did pick Felix to win, but Bublik got absolutely buried. We were hoping that his serve would at least help him hold a bit more frequently. Didn't happen. He was down early. He was down often in both sets, and he got absolutely steamrolled. So either way, picked up a loss for the lock and dog there in Rotterdam. On the bright side, we did pick up an automatic win in Rotterdam because we have both finalists. We have De Minaur and we have Felix, so a guaranteed outright winner in that event. Plus, if you were following me on Twitter, I did tweet out a play involving the Cilic and Fritz match. I did recommend both of the first 2 sets to end in a tiebreak, and that was 11-1 on FanDuel. So once again, if you follow me on Twitter, you would have been recommended an 11-1 play, which ended up cashing because there were no breaks in that entire match. So recapping what happened in the semis, I just did so in Rotterdam, but I'll do it again for cohesion. So once again, you ended up seeing De Minaur win 6-4, 6-3. According to the metrics, he got outplayed. Humbert ended up doing a terrible job of defending his breakpoints. He only defended 1 out of the 4 breakpoint chances faced successfully. As for De Minaur, once again, he fought off all 10. So, yeah, Humbert had chances. He squandered all of them. And I believe in pressure points, he was 1 for 14 in pressure points. So, yeah, Humbert did everything right except for when it mattered, and then he fell apart. So either way, that was pretty unfortunate, but nice win for De Minaur, who makes it back to the Rotterdam final for the 3rd straight year. As for the other matchup, once again, Felix and Bublik was just one-sided. That match took less than an hour. even though the de Minaur match was a straight set win, it did take an hour and a half, basically. The Bublik and Felix entire match took 54 minutes. It was a bloodbath, and Bublik got absolutely embarrassed. So there you go. Once again, two really just awful outcomes in Rotterdam for the sake of drama. We had a couple of marathon matches in the quarters, and then we saw no drama at all, basically, in Rotterdam, besides Humbert blowing break points late in the second set to try to get back into the match. But once again, it was pretty underwhelming in Rotterdam. Moving on to Buenos Aires, pretty similar story, but slightly more competitive sets involved, as we saw two separate players win in straight sets. The two favorites won in straight sets. So basically a carbon copy of what happened in Rotterdam. So Cerundolo beat Etcheverry. He closed about minus 250, and he was able to win in straight sets. I would not say it was necessarily easy. First set felt easy. Second set was close. It was 5-5. And then Etcheverry ended up getting broken in the 11th game, and then Cerundolo held to get the job done. Not too surprising, Cerundolo, two-time finalist. I think we'd agree that he's, well, now a three-time finalist in the event. I think we'd agree, just straightforward, he's a much better player than Etcheverry, so not exactly a shock that Etcheverry got kind of exposed over the course of the match. Cerundolo's firepower was definitely on full display, and Etcheverry had to play on the back foot. Cerundolo was overall pretty sharp, and it felt like the forehand was just the best shot on the entire court for the matchup. But either way, nice win for Cerundolo in straight sets in that one. Then you had Darderi taking on Baez, and that one was a competitive first set. And then Baez got destroyed in the second set. So basically, Baez's last match against Ugo Carabelli, except the reverse, because the first set went to a very, very competitive spot where it was, once again, 6-6. And then after that, whoever lost the first set just got buried. But either way, Darderi looked fantastic. I believe he did not get broken in the entire match. Did not face a break point in the entire match. So once again, Darderi played very, very well. We gave him out to win the event, so we already have some action in Buenos Aires. We'll see how that goes in the final. But Baez felt like, kind of like what I just said for Etcheverry. He was on the back foot a lot. We know Darderi does have an insane amount of firepower, and we know that he's a very, very good clay player. And he was even making some strides on hard court earlier this year, winning a couple rounds in the Aussie Open. It's why we gave him out to win the event. We gave out Baez as well to win the event, so we had a guaranteed finalist entering the semis, and we got Darderi, who ended up making it to the finish line, or so to speak. He made it to the last match, but we'll see how it goes against Cerundolo. I'll preview that match in a few minutes, but either way, nice win by Darderi, who was fantastic, simply put, and Baez really had no answers. It's one thing to win against Baez in straight sets in Argentina. It's another thing to win against Baez, who we know is a great overall returner and rallier, and not face a single break point in the entire match. That is some phenomenal serving, and Darderi was on an absolute heater on Saturday. Moving on to the last tournament that actually happened on Saturday. This was where the drama was, because we had Dallas with a couple of really competitive matches. So Fritz and Cilic did end in straight sets. There were no breaks in the entire match, and I actually did tweet that out a day early. Somebody asked me my thoughts on the match, and I said there might not be a break in the entire match, and there was not. It was 11-1 on FanDuel for no breaks in the first two sets, or I should say for two tiebreakers in the first two sets, and I gave that out at 11-1, so that felt pretty good. But either way, very, very solid match, very high quality. And Fritz turned into Pete Sampras. Nothing else to really add. 22 aces, 0 double faults, 0 break points faced. Cilic serves well, too. Don't get me wrong. He had 16 aces. But either way, Fritz was just an absolute machine. He won 86% of his first serve points and 58% of his second serve points. So Fritz really turned into Pete Sampras. Nothing else to add. Cilic went down swinging. Thought he might get broken there at the end of the match as he was down 15-40. Bombs 2 first serves up the middle. Still ends up holding. Then ends up losing in the tiebreak. But Fritz had the elbow issue in the, I'd say, middle of his last match. And he was able to come back against Korda. And then he was able to look great against, once again, Cilic on Saturday. So Fritz played incredibly well. I thought he was the best player on the court for the entire day on Saturday, but the point is it was a great match, very, very competitive, no breaks, but either way, definitely a fun match. Unfortunately, though, the somber news, our Cilic plus 5,000 outright went up in flames. No regrets. Cilic played very well. It's always tough to lose an outright when your guy does not actually get broken in a match, especially in the semis. But I thought the better player won. Fritz was holding more easily over the course of the match, and the stats back it up. So Fritz played very well. Cilic fought his ass off, but unfortunately did not work out, as Fritz did win both tie breaks. Now, for the other match, this was the best match of the day. It was the Shapo match against Shelton, and we saw Shelton win in a third set breaker. Now, Shapo arguably outplayed Shelton over the course of the match, because if you want to compare breakpoint chances, for example, Shelton only had 6 breakpoint chances. Shapo had 11. So Shapo had a bunch of chances to actually go up in a couple of sets. He had a couple of breakpoint opportunities in the second set after winning the first one. I believe he had a love 40 chance early in the second set. So for a little while, it looked like a straight set win for Shapo was actually on the cards, but Shelton was able to fight off the breakpoints. He was able to eventually get the break in the final game of the second set. But Shapo was up love 40 in the 2-2 return game, had 4 breakpoints that not convert, and then eventually did end up losing in the late stages of that second set. Then on top of that, Shapo had a couple of breakpoints in the third set, 2 of them early at 15-40 in the 1-1 return game, and then he also had a breakpoint chance in the 5-5 return game, did not convert, and then Shelton won the breaker 7-4. So overall, once again, Dallas was definitely the best collection of competitive matches on Saturday. We'll see if that carries over into the finals on Sunday. But to recap the outrights quickly, before we get into the actual match previews, a reminder on Rotterdam, guaranteed winner. We have the 2 finalists. We ended up giving out only 2 plays for the event. We had Dimmenauer at 275, and we had Felix at 650. Guaranteed winner. So if you want to hedge accordingly, Felix is favored now. So if you want to try to get some, I'd say, balance with your actual futures, the 650 longer shot compared to Dimmenauer pre-tournament is now the favorite. So you can get Dimmenauer at plus money if you want to try to balance out your portfolio. Buenos Aires, we did end up losing with our option there with Baez at 650. However, that's fine. We were going to sacrifice one of the two because we also had Darderi. So we had a guaranteed guy losing entering the final, and we have the longer shot. It's basically a pick'em. I'll mention the odds in a second between Darderi and Cerundolo. But we have 9-1. So overall, solid action. If you want to hedge that, you can. But we already have 2 solid outright choices. And unfortunately for Dallas, did go 0 for 3 on the outrights there, as we had Paul at 11-1, who lost to Ivanovic. We had Nagashima, who lost to Fritz. In hindsight, no shame in that. Fritz has been incredible. And we had Cilic at plus 5,000, which, even though it lost, was a great value play. No regrets at all. If you hedged with Fritz today, that was like minus 180, minus 190. So you still made some money. But either way, Cilic plus 5,000 was still a, in my opinion, phenomenal bet. Unfortunately, it did not work out, but still no regrets at all. Anyway, before we get into the actual preview of the 3 matches taking place on Sunday for the title matches, a reminder they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is Kalshi. Real money prediction market available in every state, so it has a ton of trading markets for your favorite sports. Besides sports, they also have a ton of other options like politics, entertainment, and even the weather. And you can also join Kalshi with a great sign-up deal courtesy of us. It's $20 when you sign up with the code SGPN. That's Kalshi, K-A-L-S-H-I, code SGPN, for free $20 to sign up at Kalshi. We're also brought to you by Rebet. So Rebet is the #1 social sports booking casino out there, available in 35 states, including Texas and California. Get on the action with Rebet, and a reminder that you can get a great sign-up deal courtesy of us. You get 100% purchase match up to $100 with the promo code SGPN. That's Rebet promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the recap of what happened in the semis. Time to move on into the preview of the 3 title matches for Sunday. So for the order, we are going to start off in this overall episode breaking down the Rotterdam match first. So we have Dimmenauer taking on Felix. Once again, we already have outrights on both players, so you'll probably not have any actual action on the match, but we're still going to give out picks, obviously. But no real reason when you have a 275 and a 650. So we're chilling. If you ended up backing the 2 futures, then you are completely chilling for this match. If not, or if you want to get greedy, I'm still going to give out some picks for the end of the show for the lock and dog segment. But for the actual match, Felix is minus 180. You have de Minaur around plus 150 for the over between 22.5 and 23. 22.5, the over's minus 140. For 23.5, the over's minus 110. So if you want to pay a juiced price, you can if you want to try to get a lower number. As for the spread, I see either 1.5 juiced at about minus 150, 2.5, which is around minus 120 for plus 220, and plus 1.5 is plus 105. Felix has been quite good in the head-to-head. He's currently 4-2 lifetime. I will point out that Felix has won 3 of the last 4, and he is 3-0 lifetime on hard court against de Minaur. So we saw them face off last year in the U.S. Open. De Minaur won the first set. All 4 competitive, but either way, Felix did eventually come back and win. For the path so far, Felix won the title in Montpellier, and we backed him to go back-to-back, and so far so good, because he's been flawless. He's not dropped a set. Ended up beating Popyrin, beat Medjedovic, beat Griekspoor, and beat Bublik, all in straight sets. I will point out, though, based on the style of play, he has exactly faced an elite rallier on board yet in this event. I know Bublik, once again, is the best rallier of those 4, but he was exhausted, and he was completely gassed entering the match. So once again, a bit of a different opponent type for this matchup for Felix, but either way, he's been rolling in this 8-match winning streak. He has won 7 in straight sets, so he looks objectively in this event. I mentioned in the last tournament, it's why we gave him out in Montpellier as well. He is a top 5 player in the world on indoor hard court, and he is a hard court machine, especially in this environment, so I look for him to look pretty sharp in this one. For de Minaur, the story is really unfinished business, because de Minaur is a guy who's made it to the final here 2 straight years, and he's lost. Went up against Sinner and Alcaraz, so what are you supposed to do? Now he's trying to take care of the unfinished business that he has not been able to actually finish for the last couple of years, but once again, he is a dog in the final. Now, I think we'd agree, even though he gave Alcaraz a run for his money in the final last year, the problem is pretty. Felix has the much better serve in his favor. Try to extend rallies, he's going to try to survive. But Humbert had 10 breakpoint chances against him, so once again, he was vulnerable, and he found a way to survive, not to mention the 3-set marathon he had against Zanchel in the quarterfinals. So de Minaur has been winning, but not exactly in as dominant fashion as Felix, who has not dropped a set. The past so far, de Minaur ended up winning in straight sets against Humbert, 3 against Zanchel, beat Wawrinka, and beat Fies both in straight sets. So he's not been bad by any means. He has only dropped 1 set out of the 9. However, once again, had him on the ropes, and Humbert had him on the ropes. He was able to escape. So in this one, for the actual pricing, I know it opened for Felix. He was around minus 130 earlier, and now he's down. Now he's all the way down to basically minus 180. I see a couple minus 190s out there. Is that fair? Look, I think he's going to win. I think Felix is the better indoor hardcourt player. It's very tough to bet against the guy who is just absolutely rolling right now. And we saw him get injured early in the Aussie Open with a cramping issue. We were not concerned about it. This is definitely his favorite surface. It's hard court. It's indoor hard court. He beat him in the U.S. Open last year en route to the semis. He's been phenomenal on hard court. Basically the last, if you want to break it down by last 6-7 months, he's been elite on hard courts. Is right now the better player in this matchup. Now, de Minaur, we saw make a good run in the Aussie Open as he was able to make it all the way to Alcaraz, who eventually won the title and did lose in straight sets. But de Minaur should be a bit tricky. The problem is, I think Felix's firepower and his ability to come forward is going to really frustrate de Minaur. De Minaur is going to want to play long rallies. He's going to want to try to force error, work out in some slight spots, maybe even to win a set. But I think Felix is just too good right now with the weapons. The forehand should be dangerous. The serve should be really good. And de Minaur, who struggled against Zanchel, who had a lot of serve against Humbert, because he did not actually get broken. But at the same point, he did allow 10 breakpoint chances. So I do think the serve should be vulnerable in this one. I think I have to mention, by the way, I see people mentioning that the video is glitching out. Apologies, but I'm not exactly in my apartment right now. So when I actually do end up recording, occasionally the audio glitches. So apologies if you're listening to this and the audio is not exactly working out. It is not the headset. It is actually the Wi-Fi. So apologies, but that should be fixed sometime in the immediate future. So once again, I'll be going to a different place probably tonight. So once again, I should have better audio for the next. Apologies, though, if you are listening. Audio keeps cutting out. Either way, though, going back to this one, I think he's the better player. He should hold serve more easily and de Minaur, despite only dropping one set in the event, while Felix has not. I'll go Felix in this one. I'll go for the spread. I don't mind potentially 2-0 if you want to go for plus money. But I do think Felix wins. I think Felix will end up getting the job done. And I think that if I had to go for a score line, give me 6-4, 6-3. I think Felix wins relatively easily in this one. So moving on to the next match, we're going to go to Buenos Aires, coincidentally starting at the same time as Dallas. So we did go alphabetically for this one. Cerundolo taking on Darderi. Once again, we have Darderi at 9-1. So we already have action on this final at a great price. Now, for the actual odds here, Cerundolo is a favorite, but not by a lot, as he is around -127. Darderi's around +104. For the over-under, I see 22.5 games, -125 on the over. I see 23.5 games at around +100 for the over. So once again, pick whatever number you want. You could pay a bit of a juice there, but still, we know 23 can be a pretty key number for tennis, so you can go about it how you want to. Now, for the spread, it is -1.5 for Cerundolo and +1.5 for Darderi. Now, like de Minaur, Cerundolo's been to the final here twice before, and he has lost both times. He was here last year, lost to Fonseca in straight sets, competitively, but still ended up not getting the job done. Now, for Darderi, we know that he's been in great form recently. We saw him look good in the Aussie Open. He almost won a set against Sinner on hard court. He probably should have. He had a couple of break points there late in that third set. But either way, he showed up here and has been great. He has not dropped a set yet, beating Baez, beating Martinez, and beating Barrios Vera. For Cerundolo, he looked good in the Aussie Open as well, beat Rublev in straight sets and lost to Zverev, showed up here, and like Darderi, he has not dropped a set. Now, he beat Delian. He should have dropped a set. Delian had, I think it was 8 set points in that second set and choked them all away. So Cerundolo should have dropped a set there, but either way, a point is a win nonetheless. Ended up beating Capriva. He was down a break in that first set, and he was able to come back, and then he beat Echeverry in straight sets. So I think Darderi has been objectively the more dominant player so far, at least going match by match. We know the crowd will be in favor of Cerundolo, but I said a second ago that did not help him in the previous 2 final appearances. Then again, even though he is Argentinian, I don't actually have the footage in front of me because I didn't really look it up, but I'm assuming the crowd was supporting Schwartzman in that one. So you could argue the crowd, even though it was not rooting against him, it was probably more pro-Schwartzman than it was pro-Cerundolo. So maybe the crowd wasn't exactly in his favor that much in that one. But against Fonseca, who I know has a solid fan base, still a decent crowd support, and he ended up losing in straight sets. Now, I am going to point out for the final, if you want to go for some overall history involving this tournament, 8 of the last 9 title matches in the Argentina Open have ended in straight sets. So 8 of the last 9 title matches here have really not been that competitive. You've seen a couple of close sets, but 8 of the last 9 ended in straight sets. We'll see if that continues in this one. Now, for the head-to-head, it has been quite competitive. They have a couple of meetings, and right now it is in favor of nobody. It is tied 2-2. Faced off last year 3 times, actually, and Cerundolo did win. He won 2 out of the 3. Faced off in Bastad at the, I'd say, middle of last year, and Darderi won in 3. Faced off in Rio last year, Cerundolo won in 3. Faced off in this event last year, and Cerundolo did win in straight sets. I will point out, though, it was 6-4, 6-4. It was relatively close. And for the first meeting, which Darderi did win, that was in Houston, which I think we all know is the fakest clay out of the entire ATP schedule, and Darderi did win in a third set tiebreak. So it's been very close in the head-to-head, but they faced off last year, and Cerundolo did win in straight sets. So, in this event. So, I think Darderi, once again, it makes sense why he's a dog. However, am I going to lay the juice with Cerundolo in this event? Absolutely not. I am not going to be laying juice in this one. This might have just been a blind plus money play. Whoever was the dog, take the plus money. This feels like a coin flip to me. I think this really could go either way. I think you're looking at a spot where Darderi, once again, has the better serve out of the two. And if Darderi ends up landing with the forehand, it really might be a battle of forehands. I think whoever does a better job of controlling the actual points will end up winning this match. I think Darderi versus Cerundolo forehand-wise is a tremendous battle, especially on clay. But I do think Darderi is the better server by comparison. So based on that, I think I am going Darderi. I think the plus money angle is pretty appealing. You could argue that once again, Cerundolo might find a way to get the job done finally in this event. Maybe so. But I don't think minus 125 or so sounds appropriate. I think it should be closer to minus 110 apiece. I really don't see anything separating these two guys. Darderi, we know, lost to Cerundolo in this event last year, but Darderi has been getting a lot better because he's still very young. We saw him make some strides at the end of last year as he won back-to-back titles. We saw him make a good run in the Aussie Open. The point is he's dangerous, and the fact is he got better over the course of the last couple of months. I think that should result in a better effort against Cerundolo in this matchup. I'll go for the dog here. I think it's a close matchup. I think that Darderi finds a way to escape. If you want to go for the team total over, I can see a breaker. I think there will be at least one close set, maybe a couple. Maybe unlike the previous trends for the title matches here, maybe you get a third set. But either way, I'm going Darderi. I think plus money for basically the... I think the guy with the 50-50 chance is definitely the way to go about it. So with a plus money play, yes, I know that it's small at around plus 104. Give me the coin toss. Give me tails never fails, and hopefully Darderi gets the job done in this one. I will pick him to win in... I'm going to go 3, even though it goes against the, I'd say, historical data involving the tournament here. I'll go Darderi in 3. I think he finds a way to survive. I see it being close, but I think that he is going to get the job done in this one. Moving on to the last match for the 3 on Sunday. You have Fritz taking on Shelton, Battle of the Americans. So for this one, Fritz is favored, not by a lot, though. He's minus 115. Shelton is around minus 105 for the over-under. 25.5. The over is minus 140. The under is minus 105. Not surprising. Court speed has been incredible, and we have seen both guys serve well so far in the event. So we saw Fritz win despite not breaking against Cilic, and you might see the same thing here. Who knows? The point is you might see a bunch of holes and really not many breakpoint chances. So for the actual spread here, Fritz minus 1.5 games is plus 110. Shelton plus 1.5 games is minus 165. Now, for the actual head-to-head, they have 2 career meetings faced off last year in Toronto. A reminder that Shelton did win that event, his first ever 1,000 title. Shelton won in straight sets, wasn't very close. Fritz ended up really just no-showing the match, and Shelton beat him, I believe it was 4-3, and it was really never in doubt. So Shelton buried him last meeting. However, faced off in matchup in 2023 in Indian Wells, and Fritz did win in 3 sets. We know Fritz, though, did win a title in Indian Wells, and we know that that is in his backyard, so a bit of a home crowd advantage for Fritz there. This one, though, should be fun. For the path so far, Fritz has been incredible lately. We saw him win in straight sets, 1 in 3 against Giron, 1 in straight sets against Nakashima, got injured in the first set against Korda, lost the first set, and then, since then, he has been rolling. He's won 4 straight sets, and the serve has looked immaculate. I compared him to Pete Sampras earlier. He was that good on Saturday. So we'll see how he looks on Sunday, but Fritz does look very good in this environment. Now, for the actual path for Shelton, he has been struggling, but he has been surviving. Beat Manarino, going in order. Ended up beating Diallo in straight sets. Straightforward, Diallo has really not been good since he won that 1 grass title last year. Then he played Manarino, ended up winning in 3. Then he played Kekmanovic, he ended up winning in 3. And played Chapo, was down to love 40, down a set as well. came back and he was able to win in 3. So Shelton has dropped the set in every single match, and I think that's pretty telling that he's been winning. And yes, as Young Bay is mentioning, Dallas is the serve bot tournament, which is how I previewed the event going in. But I do think Fritz has been objectively the better player so far in the event, and I do think comparing both players in terms of form, I know Shapo was the defending champion, but the point is Cilic was playing insanely well. He had not gotten broken in 2 straight matches. He had not dropped the set yet. Shapo had a war against Fekino in the previous round. I think Cilic had been playing better than Shapo, and yet Fritz did win in straight sets, while Shelton had to come back from a pretty rough deficit to get the job done in 3. So I think that Fritz has been playing better than Shelton in the event. I understand that trusting Fritz or Shelton can be quite annoying because either guy could self-destruct in a moment's notice, but I do think for this price, I think Fritz is pretty cheap, actually. I think 115 is wrong. I think based on form, I would have Fritz at minus 130, minus 135. Yes, I know Shelton with his serve can beat anybody besides Sinner and Alcaraz, of course, because he can hold, especially on these courts. However, Shapo kind of exposed that theory. Once again, Shapo had 11 breakpoint chances, and he almost won in straight sets. So I'm not going to suddenly say that Shelton is unbreakable. In fact, Shelton, including the Aussie Open, which I know is not really fair because it is 3 out of 5 sets, but Shelton hasn't broken at least one time in 5 of the last 6 matches he's played, and Fritz has not been broken in 3 straight matches. So Shelton has been struggling a bit more than expected for a serve bot tournament when it comes to holding. He has faced break points. Fritz has been serving better up to this point, and I think that might be the deciding factor in this one. This might come down to a tie break, so once again, I can understand why this actual price is cheap. But I think it's too cheap. I think based on eye tests, based on stats, etc., I think Fritz has been the best player in the field so far in the event. I will pick Fritz in this one. I think the price is too cheap. I'll go Fritz at minus 115 in this one. For the over-under, I see no value. At 25.5, you're choosing between 2 sets or 3 sets, basically. So I'm not going to bother on the over-under, but I do think Fritz ends up winning. I think he has been better. I think it will be close. I think that there will be at least one tiebreak in there, but I think that Fritz will survive, and I think he'll end up winning the title. So there you go. That's my thoughts on the 3 matches taking place on Sunday. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the lock and dog, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is Underdog Fantasy. They have you covered for pick'em entries, chance to win up to 5,000 times your entry. Pick high or lower on player stats, and you can also mix and match your sports. And a reminder, if you are new to the platform, great sign-up deal. Play just $5, get $75 bonus funds. We sign up the promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. They've been great in college basketball and for the NBA. Easy to sign up and use their actual models. So a couple ways to experiment with models. If you are new to it, you can either build your own from scratch. You can use the leaderboard system. So other people have models. You can copy and paste those if they are winning. Or you can do the last option, which is using the Rhythm House model, which is just Rhythm's model, and they'll give you plays directly, no questions asked. But either way, point is use Rhythm in a couple of ways for model building. They also have props for you if you're interested. If you want to go premium, use the code SGPN25. We download the app, and you'll get a nice quarter off your first month. That's Rhythm, RATHMM, code SGPN25 for 25% off your first month at Rhythm. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Cam Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the 3 title matches in Rotterdam, in Buenos Aires, and in Dallas. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. For the lock, going back to Rotterdam, give me Felix minus the 1.5 games at minus 155. If you want the 2.5, that's fine too. I think Felix can, in theory, win a set, but I think Felix can cover this in a couple of ways. I think if you're asking between the 2 players, which one is more likely to lose a lopsided set, let's say 6-3 or worse, it's de Minaur, because we know de Minaur's serve is more vulnerable. We know that Felix has been playing extremely well for the last couple of weeks in indoor hard courts, but Felix has been great recently. He's won 8 straight matches. 7 of the 8 have been in straight sets. De Minaur beat Humbert in straight sets despite only winning 2 more points in the entire match. So once again, de Minaur won 4 and 3. Humbert only won 7 games, and de Minaur only won 2 more points. So it was very, very competitive. Humbert was just awful on every single clutch point, but de Minaur once again found a way to survive, but it was not nearly as easy as the final score suggests. Humbert went 0 for 10 on breakpoint chances. De Minaur went 3 for 4, and by comparison, Felix beat Bublik, who is a top 10 player in the world, while only dropping 3 games. So Felix is definitely better than de Minaur right now. On top of that, Felix has been good in the head-to-head, as he has won 4 of the last 5 meetings in general, and he's also won all 3 career hardcore meetings. I think he'll look sharp here. I understand it's juicy, but the money line is minus 190, so I'm going to go with the Felix minus 1.5 games here at minus 155. If you want to go for 2.5, though, I don't hate that either, but I'll play it safe. Give me the 1.5 as my lock for the show. For my dog, going to go with a prop here, going back to Dallas. Yes, I know it is going to be a serve bot tournament, so you might not see many breaks in this one. However, since I do think Fritz is serving better than Shelton, I will take Fritz to record the first break in the match, which you can find available at around, I see plus 105 as the best price on DraftKings. So Shelton has been broken at least one time in 5 of his last 6. We saw him have to face a ton of break points against Shapo, and he did a good job fighting them off, but the point is there were opportunities there. But Shelton's been broken at least once in 5 of the last 6. Fritz has not been broken in 3 straight. Shelton faced 11 break points against Shapo in the semis. Fritz did not face a single break point against Cilic. I think it will be a fun match. I think it will be close. Once again, Fritz can still lose the match and still cover this prop or win this prop. But Shapo proved that you can get into a bunch of Shelton return games, and I do think that if Shelton's first serve percentage is not landing, I think Fritz can actually do a good job rallying to get into these games and to force some errors. So I like the plus money play. The fact is, it is pretty interesting that Fritz is favored in the match, but him to record the first break is plus 105. So I'll go for the value on that one. I think that you can make an argument that Shelton might not break in the entire match. That wouldn't totally shock me. But I'll go for the prop play. Give me Fritz to break first at plus 105 as my dog for the show. So once again, the lock and dog picks. The lock's going to be on Felix, minus 1.5 games, minus 155. And for the dog here, I am going to go with Fritz to record the first break of serve at plus 105. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the show. A reminder, we have 3 events coming up next week. We have Delray Beach, we have Doha, and we have Rio. So we have a couple of hard court events and a clay event like this past week, but should be fun. I will do a preview episode for those 3 events later on today.